Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's the Boho Info Show, and you just never know what we talk about next, right? Before we get started, just letting you guys know, better get yourself a cup of coffee on this one, and a notebook and a piece of paper, pen to write down and jot your notes. Also, take everything we say with a grain of salt, do your own research, but at the end of the show, we will provide a link that shows you where we got our information from on the subject of this show. Also, we make no claims on anything medically or otherwise. And yeah, so today is what? The middle of the month of July, right? How time flies. Well, tonight or today, whenever you're going to see the show, even if you replay it. Oh, and another thing, if you guys are lagging or if you miss any parts of the show, you can always rewind the show to see any of the parts missing that you didn't see live, I guess. Also, you're able to chat in the chat room for those who came in live. So you can go in the chat room, talk with each other, ask me questions. I'll try to provide answers for everything if I can. And you guys know through any of my shows, I always give you my opinion and comments throughout anything that we talk about on any of the shows. So let's get started. So today we're going to be talking about a little bit about that declassification, I guess, report on UFOs that they supposedly released. But yeah, a lot of people are questioning that they didn't release all of it or they didn't release enough of it or whatever it was. And so I'm going to show you proof of what they're hiding, right? So tell all your friends, get over here right now to this channel and listen in because I'm going to have something very special for you guys to listen to. Are you ready? Here we go. A Roper poll conducted in the United States reported that 70% of the U.S. population believes that the government is not telling the public everything it knows about UFOs and the extraterrestrials. Now, isn't that interesting after what they're supposed to release all that information to us, right? But they never did. They only went towards the legal guidelines of releasing some information, but unfortunately, they didn't release it all. So, yeah, it's between the gray areas and the holes in the law, and they got away with what they did, and they didn't tell us everything. So here, we're going to do a little bit more than that.
We're dealing with the biggest story of the millennium. This is flying very quickly. Spacecraft, successful cover-up of the best day of bodies and wreckage for 58 years. The bottom line is I don't believe the claim of the Air Force that all sightings can be explained.
This is the biggest secret in the history of the human race, and particularly in the history of modern government. We are being engaged as a planet and as a species by other beings. The Canadian government is how I actually proved that the U.S. government was covering up their collection of UFO sightings. America and Britain have made it very clear to a lot of countries who have the same sort of sightings and same resources that this is something that they better not let out. Not until we say it's okay.
If we would get off of this ego trip, this Western scientific ego trip, we would not become the virus of the universe that we are. Nobody really wants us that way.
Now, I want you to stop there. You heard her say, become the virus of the universe. For us as a planet, not to become the virus of the universe. Remember I told you on any programs, whether you're looking at something pre-recorded, something off YouTube, whether it's on your TV with movies or TV shows, things have pre-programming codes in it or they have keywords in there that give away certain situations. That was one of them, okay? So she's saying, quote unquote, as a planet, not to become the virus. And what did we go through already? The CV thing, right? So yeah, just start correlating, start checking out things, jot your little notes, connect the dots, all that kind of thing.
Oil could be ended overnight. We're being slowly conditioned to understand that there is life outside this planet and that we probably live in a universe and a galaxy teeming with life. I had my own UFOs sighting and said, well, case closed. There's nothing like seeing one for yourself to end the debate. I'm absolutely sure that we are not alone in this universe.
We invite you now to come with us upon a great and wondrous journey, an adventure perhaps into your very own past, present, and future. See and hear the real stories, and most importantly, be introduced to the actual individuals who have volunteered to come forward to speak the truth.
Now, also, while I'm doing this show, I want you to write down key spots like this one here that you're seeing on your screen. Write that down and kind of do your own research on locations. This is going to have another factor. And you're going to say, well, how does this correlate with the UFO thing? How does this correlate with everything that's happening in the world? Trust me, everything is, anytime you reverse a money trail, anytime you reverse the dominoes on different things, they all interconnect. Okay. So location, location, location. Okay. Write it down. And also think about this. In Germany today, and as of yesterday, they've had major floods. According to sources, if you look into the harp, not the musical instrument that you play, that it's connected to the floods, okay? But also location, location, location for this other stuff as well. Think about it. Now, this is another thing, too. Hang on, let me get to it. Let me see if I can get back to it. Give me a minute. If we can get to the beginning of this file area.
To understand that there is life outside this.
Oh, hang on, we're too far there. There are certain things, when it pops out at me, I'll pop it out at you, okay?
Get off of this
Listen.
ego trip, this Western scientific ego trip. We would not become the virus of the universe that we are. Nope.
Did you hear that? We're not to become the virus of the universes that we are. Okay? This information of this show was put out today. So this has been pre-planned amongst governments. Okay? Just saying, look at timelines, connections.
Dependence on oil could be ended
See, you hear this?
overnight. We're being slowly conditioned to understand that there is life outside this planet and that we probably live in a universe, a galaxy teeming with life. I had my own UFO sighting and said, well, case closed. There's nothing like seeing one for yourself to end the debate. I'm absolutely sure that we are not alone in this universe.
We invite you now to come with us upon a great and wondrous journey, an adventure perhaps into your very own past, present, and future. See and hear the real stories, and most importantly, be introduced to the actual individuals who have volunteered to come forward to speak the truth.
Now write down this location. See the files? See the subject line in the files? Now, we're going to kind of do this together because I know I want to get into it just as much as you guys do, probably. So, yeah, write that down. And think about that with U.S. and other government secret space programs. Okay, keywords, write them down like I'm doing.
flying saucers exist? Are extraterrestrials real? Is there a government cover-up?
For nearly 60 years, denial has been the only official position of the governments of the world relative to UFOs, alien abductions, and extraterrestrial contactee reports. Endless debates have raged over the thousands of documented cases that have been brought forward without official recognition. Some have been monumental incidents involving hundreds or even thousands of people.
Roswell, New Mexico, USA, July the 4th, 1947. The flying disc crash.
Now, I want you to look at the date. Remember July 4th, Independence Day kind of thing, 1947? Now, think about that in the movie Independence Day. Remember when the aliens attack or whatever it was, and then the president in that movie, now, not the current one, but the one in the movie came out and says, let this not be, our independent or our day of, independence or whatever. Let this be, an Independence Day for all the world. Remember he said that? Okay. I'm just saying pre-programming stuff, right?
Crash. The debris alien bodies were flown to Wright Field Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. Suffolk, England. Rendlesham Forest, December the 26th to 28th, 1980. A triangular-shaped object illuminated the entire forest with white light. The object had a pulsing red light on top and a bank of blue lights underneath. It left ground traces and radioactive anomalies. This was a multiple witness sighting by military personnel. Belgium. The Belgium Wave, October 1989 to 1990. Hundreds of reports of lighted objects described as enormous.
Now think of the date line, the date time, okay? And think about what our secret space program, and for those that are in the services, what some of the space vehicles, futuristic looking ones that looks like triangle shape in any kind of government military service program, okay, with triangular shape ones look like. If this was back in 47, let's say, or 89, when did they say 89 or 47 on that one? Let me see. Let's go back to this one.
It's left ground traces and radioactive anomalies. This was multiple witness sighting by military personnel. Belgium.
There, 89 to 90, okay? So let's say 90. 90, 2000, 2010, 2020. So maybe 40 years ago, they've already had our secret space program with these triangle-shaped kind of aircraft plane-looking things, okay, from secret programs of different governments throughout the world. You know what I'm saying? Think about it, that they've already had that. It's just right now we're seeing 50, we knew 50 years back that they had these certain things, but they weren't disclosing it. And now all of a sudden, every now and then, everybody's seeing something in the sky that's like a triangular shape, right? I'm just saying. Think about it.
October 1989 to 1990. Hundreds of reports of lighted objects frequently described as enormous and triangular in shape. Air Force F-16 chased many of these objects. The Belgian government cooperated with civilian UFO investigators.
Now, did you hear that? The Belgian government cooperated with a UFO research program. Now, think about that today, right now. We've got, floods in Belgium right now, as of today, which is the 15th of July. We have floods in Germany and many parts of the UK, including Russia. You see what I'm saying? So I'm just throwing this out for you guys to think about. I'm not saying it is true, okay? I want you guys to research it. But what if we're using our HARP program to create those floods over into Europe, whether it's in Germany, Russia, UK, Belgium, all that area that are having floods, to wash away files and documents of the UFO programs? Just saying, what if? Okay, think about it.
Arizona, USA. The Phoenix Lights, March the 13th, 1997. A huge V-shaped object hovered over Phoenix for 10 to 15.
Now think about that. He said a huge V-shape type object in 97. Think about that with, I think they call it a stealth bomber now or something like that, right?
Observed by tens of thousands of people. Mexico, the Mexico flag. Hundreds of objects appearing alone and in clusters appear throughout Mexico, observed by tens of thousands of people. Flying saucers are real.
On the Black Vault, you can download documents that prove that
Now,
the United States Air Force bases have been breached by UFOs.
this guy right here, I've talked to him.
That missile silos have mysteriously been shut down due to UFOs hovering over the base.
Right now, just to let you guys know, he's from the Black Vault. He has his own YouTube channel. I've actually talked to him. And he's a phenomenal resource of information when it comes to anything UFO wise. So yeah.
I think you download that and you read it. You conclude, yeah, okay, UFOs pose a national security threat to the U.S. government.
In 52, I was an 8th grader and old enough to read for myself the big screen headlines that July about UFOs flying over the nation's capital and the Air Force planes not being able to catch them.
They're there to pay attention. Incidents happened in Soviet Union war collapse. Incidents happened all over the northern U.S. The ICBM bases, where they came down, hovered over the silos, played hell with electronics. Pictures were taken. Hundreds of witnesses watched them. Unclassified, you never hear them, except for whistleblowers and big mouths like me.
While I was attending Northrop Aeronautical Institute and working for Douglas Aircraft in El Segundo, California, I had heard about George Adamski in one of the Sunday newspapers. He had his story and his pictures of contacts plus pictures of his ships. Well, I had by that time seen so many during the day and the night that I felt I'd like to go up and meet this gentleman. On the weekend, he would entertain people who would come to see him, military people, engineers, scientists, people from all walks of life. And he had taken some beautiful pictures of the skycraft as well as the carrier ships. I went up to see him. He had a 6-inch telescope that he used to take the pictures of flying saucers. And using that scope, when I finished, I was just about to take my eye off the eyepiece when there was a blue white streak that went by, and I jerked my head up to see if I could see it, and I did. And I looked at his 15-inch telescope dome, which was a couple of 100 yards from his house. And there was a big flare of blue-white light, and then it kind of closed back down. No noise. First I thought it was an explosion, but it was a little slower than that. And there was an elliptical flying saucer. It looked to me like it was hovering above the ground. So I heard it increase in frequency, and it got brighter and brighter. It was really pretty hard to look at. And it shot straight up until it looked like one of the stars. If you've ever been to Mount Palomar at night on a dark night, boy, they're big and bright. And it stopped for an instant, and it shot over the horizon over San Diego.
We have more than one witness who have been involved in the tracking of these objects on radar. You know, many people think, well, look, if this stuff was real, why are there no radar reports? So we have them. We actually have the radar tickets from the FAA.
This is not just UFOs. This is not just.
Did you hear that?
Visited by guys from
I'm going to stop there a minute. So Gear is saying basically that they have the FAA radar reports showing the live UFO action happening on radar, that it's been recorded and they've got it.
I was to learn later that our security, our intelligence people, our military people concluded and learned we're not really dealing with interplanetary visitation. We were being visited by guys from other stars, which technologically
So remember, in past shows, I've said that the secret space programs in the world of all governments is basically the reason I said they were being probably formed was because of intergalactic e-commerce. Well, he just confirmed it, saying that there is intergalactic visitors, not just from our solar system, but other systems.
No events. They're not just like the planet, like Venus or Mars or somewhere. These guys are from other stars. I'm convinced after studies since 1958 that the evidence is overwhelming that planet Earth is being visited by intelligently controlled extraterrestrial spacecraft. In other words, some UFOs are alien spacecraft. Most are not. I don't care about that. Most isotopes aren't fissionable. I don't care about the ones that aren't if we want to build a reactor.
If somebody who had the clearance to carry nuclear weapons, launch nuclear weapons, saw these objects over a nuclear facility and reported it and have documents to prove it happened, this is dispositive. That's what someone who is wanting to look into this and says, could this really be true and I don't know about it? They need to look at that. And we've assembled it. We have a 600-page book of top secret documents and the transcripts of these witnesses. We have videotapes. I began watching the newspapers for any newspaper report. I started buying magazines that had a UFO article in the magazine and collecting it. And from those, I would get names and addresses. And I often called the people who wrote the articles to get them. Then I'd go interview those people myself, and if they took pictures, I'd try to get a copy of the pictures, and frequently did. And then I began trading the pictures I already had with other people that had pictures to get more pictures, and eventually built a library of pictures, probably the largest in private hands in the world, over 4,000 pictures of real UFOs. Now, if I could collect that many alone.
Now, I want to stop there. This guy is a colonel, a retired colonel. Okay. And he has over 700 700 documented real UFO pictures. A colonel. A retired colonel. To me, this shows a red flag that the government is covering up the UFO thing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just common sense there, right? I would think. I don't know. What do you think?
As a single individual working by myself, how many pictures do you think the government has got when every government employee is a potential investigator? Every agent on the trained investigator, all collecting and contributing to the government file. They must have hundreds of them.
What Air Force Manual 10-206 says is that a U.S. Air Force pilot who sees a UFO has to report it in a particular way and manner. They outline in this form exactly how to report it. They say list the size, the shape, direction of travel, how big the object was, what were the wind conditions like. And you go through this big form and say, your UFO sighting. The manual then goes on to state that you have to forward this to the NORAD installation. This is that one Air Force base that claims, oh no, we haven't collected these things since 1969. The problem is this form was last updated in October of 2004. In 1977, I proposed and became director of a proposed extraterrestrial communication study done in conjunction with Jimmy Carter White House. Jimmy Carter, of course, had a close encounter with the UFO in the company of 10 members of the Leary, Georgia Lions Club in 1969 while he was running for governor of Georgia.
So there's my proof. The politicians have been in contact with the UFO. Okay? Jimmy Carter, 1969, at the Lions Club with 10 other witnesses.
While he was governor of Georgia in 1973, he had filed an official UFO report. It's now on the internet so everybody can see it. The 1976 U.S. presidential campaign was extraordinary because it was waged between Jimmy Carter, on the one hand, he's had a close encounter, and the first campaign waged on a platform which included a disclosure plank of sorts. Jimmy Carter was asked on various occasions, and this is documented, once elected, would he open up the extraterrestrial extraterrestrial UFO files? And he said, yes, he would.
We have over 450 military and intelligence witnesses. They range from generals and brigadier generals to air traffic controllers and air command personnel, the Air Force, to civilian people in the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, to astronauts and cosmonauts, and enormous databases of people who have up close and personally seen UFOs or worked in those projects in their capacity as a government or military person.
Now I want to stop there. I want to see if there's any questions in the chat. So let me check if there's anything. No, there's not. Okay. All right, we're going to continue.
Is the massive amount of pressure governments can exert to maintain the ongoing cover-up. People continue to come forward and tell what they have personally experienced.
Like that. 15 miles. Excellent.
Here's a Navy pilot confirming.
I did disengage the autopilot, push your nose over because we were in a collision course. And when I did, I just saw it head on 300 feet in diameter. We knew that. We had known it, like somebody was telling us 300 feet in diameter. So at that time, I heard a hell of a noise. I said, what the hell was that? He said, well, navigator and radioman ducking fell, it hit their head, one hit their head, hurt their arm, they're scrambling on the deck. So hell of a noise. I thought it hit us underneath. So I said, well, where did it go? The president went over to the right. I couldn't see it. So it drifted forward about 5 miles. I never got to the altitude that we were at, 200 feet below. I began to watch it. Well, we knew then it was a friendly encounter. He just wanted us to see. So then I went to engage the autopilot again. The magnetic compass was like this. And the bird dogs, which is direction finder, two of the bird dogs, they were pointing right at this thing, just vibrating like this. And there were a lot of electrical things in the airplane that went haywire. So I told Fred, did you see that coming? He said, it was close, it was doing this. And so I went back to the vacuum operator, the old airplane, the vacuum operator, hydraulic operator controls. I go back to that. So then we sit there and watch it for a while. Just patience, stay with us. And so the other crew from the landlord did, so they had to send back Lady Ford. Al Jones, which was the original plane there, took Nicey. And it was still there. He was watching. And as I was walking back in, he decided he was going to chase it. And so he disappeared. When I get back after, I wanted to see how the passengers do it. They're all on the right hand side. They could see it underneath the wing. And then I recognized the doctor back. He was a psychiatrist out of the Naval Hospital, plus all the other things. I better talk to him first. So Cornelius said, did you see what we saw that doctor? He said, yeah, that was a flying saucer. I didn't look at it. I don't believe in such things.
When I was 16 years old, I was walking down the street in Arlington, Virginia, and saw 7 red light type UFOs over Washington that made headlines around the world. And since then, I've seen 8 alien vehicles on 8 occasions. The sightings I've had are more things flying right by or blurs through or things. I've had 5 sightings. Never reported them.
This is a captain of a major airline.
But the trick is, you can't mention the company name or be a company. Two of my friends, excellent pilots. One of them was a famous pilot. And they both got fired for doing interviews like this, but they were in uniform.
Since I've been a child, I'm looking up into the star thinking, is there more than just us human beings in this huge universe? And now I do believe there is more life forms, different life forms, and more dimensions than we can see.
I've had several sightings. Probably the closest sighting would have been back in 1974. I was driving back between Ottawa and Montreal, going towards Montreal. And I remember going on the highway, and we came within literally probably several hundred feet.
Pay attention to the shapes and sizes of the ID of the crafts too.
Am I really seeing this? And we slowed down and sort of peeked out, and then enormous, enormous ship. I would have to say that it was two times the size of a 747. And it completely silently glided over across the highway. We saw it go off into the distance. So there was no mistaking that that was not anything at that time that would have existed conventionally or militarily. I was a lieutenant from the Bulgarian Air Force. My name was well. What I believe there is much more going on than we can see with our naked eye. Being in the
Bulgarian Air Force, aerospace engineer.
East Coast of the Punchbowl, which is just down the road from Heartbreak Ridge. We had a lull in the
Now I want to stop there on the aerospace engineer. Think about all the government contractors like Marquis Larton and a few other ones out there, okay? And think about the engineers they have to hire in order for them to do technological advances in military equipment, okay? And then listen.
fighting. So we just sat around and played poker. And somebody looked up and said, "What the heck is that?" We all looked up. And there was, it looked for all the world like a cruel pub camp setting up above us. And if you looked at it, it kind of had a watery, shimmery look and a little bit bluish white periphery. And from time to time, it would appear to be elliptical and sometimes circular. So imagine it was rocking a little bit. And just a hint of a dome sometimes on it. But we watched it, and our colonel came out and took a look at it. He made a phone call. Pretty soon, 4 F-86D models
F-86.
came out, and they tried to get to the object. And it appeared that they hit some barrier. You could see because they would stall out and do a 1.5 turn spin and then pull out at the bottom. Flying saucer finally decided to leave and got very, very bright. And it was pretty difficult to look directly at it. But it
I wanted to go back to that picture because I don't know if you guys know Monkey Works on the YouTube channel, but he can check out these call numbers too to see if there's anything going on right now with the call numbers on the planes that they have then that they might have still working right now that are in planes that are being flown throughout the country or in the world right now. So if someone has contact with him, I haven't personally talked to him, but if anybody has contact with Monkey Works on YouTube, contact him about that and see if there's anything happening that way besides what he's normally tracking with stuff connected to maybe UFO stuff like this with the call numbers on the plane. Okay. And then also too,
tried to get to the object.
I want to get to the object, this object right here, maybe that goes to it. Okay, if you think about earlier UFO pictures from the Germans that they said to look like bells, right? Well, this looks like that bell. So it may be a German influenced type of craft of a UFO, maybe. I don't know. I'm just showing you possibilities, things to think about, research.
But it rose straight up and it went through the overcast. And when it went through the overcast, there were 3 black rings that radiated from the flange of the craft and went from the flange of the craft all the way over the horizon with no sound at all. And what it looked like was somebody dropping a pebble in a glassy pool of water, and the rings were spreading out.
January of
Now I want to stop there
5:24 in the evening. I was driving south.
if I can. The 3 rings that he's referring to are portals. Okay? If you've done a lot of research with UFO stuff, they always have rings that these UFOs come in and out of. Some have actually gotten photography with these crafts coming out of these rings. you can catch even these rings on sometimes on radar in storms, like I did about a year ago.
Say 25. I'm south of Denver, and I see this black object.
Another major airline pilot.
Above the road, in the sky. And I thought, that's curious. What is that? As I get closer, as we close, I see that it is a solid object. I thought it might have been maybe geese for a start. I thought it might have been a piece of plastic blown up in the breeze like a kite. But I could see it was a solid object. It was not affected by a breeze in any way. It was flying on a straight course. It looked black. It may have been some color, but because it was silhouetted against the sky, it looked very dark. It looked like a plank. It looked like a board, an oblong shape. It was bizarre. It had a couple of little bumps on the leading edge on one end. I thought, well, if it's just junk, that would be random. Perhaps it certainly wouldn't be symmetrical. I looked at the other side, and sure enough, it had the identical bumps on the other side, the leading edge. So it was an anomalous object to identify. I couldn't relate to it. It had no sweep back, no anhedral, no dihedral. It didn't have any external power plants, no wings or no tail, empennage, no flight control surfaces or probes.
A search of the term fast walkers on the internet immediately reveals references that fast walker is a code name used by various government agencies to refer to UFOs, or, as they are sometimes called.
Did you hear that? Fast walker is a code that all global governments use for UFOs.
Non-referenced targets.
Craft that I recorded, they did the 180-degree turn down on this portion of the stream. They're called fast walkers because of their speed. The whole episode took about half a second, or less. They're talking milliseconds. And that kind of lets you know that it's not an Earth satellite that we're looking at because it's moving so fast. Plus the fact our satellites don't change direction.
Now I want you to be aware of the speed, because every now and then I put out a show with a connection to my Chilean friend down in Chile, where he goes through an observatory looking for UFOs and the stars, and they move just as fast as what you're seeing in front of your face here in this area.
180 degrees will change speed or 90 degrees. And I have seen many of the shadows go up and do a 90 degree right across the street. And sometimes you'll see 3 or 4 objects in formation, look like formation flying, and one branch off to the left, and one will go to the right. Somebody coined the phrase fast walker, and it's appropriate.
The fast walkers are the very rapid moving electrogravitic and anti-gravity.
Now see that white orb right there? Let me see if I can stop it.
Actually, for a long time, it's probably
Remember I told you they hide in clouds? Okay. Sometimes they appear black, gray, and white. What I saw was a white orb like that.
the military to track these objects.
Not this black one.
And they've been called fast walkers because, as opposed to slow walkers with satellites, because they move at enormous speeds. For example, they've been tracked going tens of thousands of miles per hour in the atmosphere, and they go right and turn without accelerating. Well, you can't do that with conventional systems. You have to correct for gravity and mass inertia. That's what these things are doing. So these have been tracked on dedicated classified radar systems. Occasionally, people who are on ordinary systems pick them up.
Today, the internet is literally alive with websites that are filled with detailed reports, many of which include convincing videos and pictures of unknown crafts and alien-like creatures.
I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm a sky watcher, UFO hunter. I have a website called seeingufos.com. I had an interest in UFOs my whole life, but officially got started on April 15th in 2004 when I walked my dog in the middle of the night, looked up in the sky and saw some strange lights.
Have you guys seen anything like that?
UFO video clips on my website. I'm more interested in the day footage. Now, the day footage is completely different because that's harder to dismiss. So I would have to say every other month it seems like I'm catching something. And I go out every day, pretty much 6 days a week, couple hours a day. You add all those hours up, and that's a lot of time just to catch one thing for 20 seconds. But that's more than most people see in a lifetime, so it's better than nothing.
Well, I'm involved in the political resolution of what we now call, I prefer to call the truth embargo, the government imposed on the facts regarding an extraterrestrial presence. That presence has been established, I think, many times over by the citizen science research that's been going on since the 40s. The government did studies, but they were primarily for show. And the issue from a government standpoint has been managed very intensely since 47 minimum. It managed in the sense that the government was going to deal with it, but deal with it within the national security structure, and never acknowledged that there's anything to this. But in fact, there is. We are being engaged as a planet and as a species by other.
These are all live shots, time, date stamped.
This is proven
I mean, not live right now, recorded, but before taken live. Taken live.
Compromised by being either an idiot or if you employ the government management of the issue, can only arrive at one conclusion. The evidence is overwhelming. Videotape, daylight discs, nighttime discs, photographs, direct pilot sightings by the thousands, millions of sightings around the world, direct testimony from direct government involvement, and of course you've got an entire contactee body of evidence that's now in the tens of thousands of reports.
Now, like never before, astounding events are transcending national and geographical boundaries, currently happening in Brazil and Mexico. Unprecedented UFO sightings are sweeping the entire area of South and Central America. Does the key to understanding UFOs and aliens and their relationship with each of us lay in being able to simply perceive what is in a higher spectrum, like seeing the infrared range or other dimensional frequencies? Images gathered from infrared cameras in Mexico and the special cameras used in Brazil seem to indicate that the aliens in their crafts may in fact be all around us. Jaime Maussan is one of Mexico's foremost journalists, internationally known and respected for more than 3 decades of journalistic work. Investigations and reporting in the UFO field have made him an icon to UFO researchers worldwide. Jaime's weekly network television show, 60 Minutes, in Mexico reaches millions of people each week and regularly carries segments on the subject of UFOs.
This plot has been recorded in video. It means that we have evidence to prove that something is really happening in the Mexican Republic. And the video camera had become the most important instrument to really capture this new reality. Even the Mexican Army, the Air Force in Mexico, recorded UFOs that the video was given to me, and I released that to the world. In that case, that happened on March the 5th, 2004. The soldiers were able to record something that they could see with their own eyes. And that's amazing. That was the first time someone recorded something that they weren't able to see.
Jaime Maussan aboard a plane coming from San Antonio to Mexico City, flying over a place called San Luis Potosí to film a UFO. Far away the plane. It wanted to keep at the radar, and they had everything themselves. So, first is normal. Maybe because we're searching for it. Maybe because we are trying to look for this.
See, every country in the world is spotting these things. It's not just a U.S. situation.
There are objects that we cannot see with our own eyes, but they are there. They are watching. In the last months in Mexico, after thousands of videos, we have been registering some of the most spectacular videos. You can see hundreds of objects.
Now I want to stop there because here's a very special part on all this research, even if our government is covering up stuff. There's other governments, like the Mexican government, okay, whether they've taken note of this, that they have UFOs, I don't know. But a lot of the citizens of Mexico believe in the UFOs. I've actually seen, and they've seen, and it has been documented where they had UFOs over the Aztec pyramids doing things with a laser beam going down, energy of supposedly UFOs going down and up from the pyramids, like they're visiting them for some reason. Um, and then on top of it, they've documented, they have pictures of it, and they're taking note of it. And I've talked to some of the Mexicans about this and what they believe in, and they call them the Anunnaki. Okay, now there's going to be more revealed about that, but for those who know who they are, you can check it out. But those who don't, maybe research what the Anunnaki are. You know what I mean? So yeah, being that he was Spanish and dealing with Mexican UFOs, I just had to add that in there.
Take information and flying together exactly the same thing that you can see in the military video. These formations moving at the same speed, in the same direction, at the same altitude.
As the more one researches, the more one discovers that literally tens of thousands of very credible people of every age, occupation, and nationality are claiming that they have had personal contact with either aliens or interdimensional beings.
Credible researchers now say that as many as 60 different species of intelligent.
Now I want to stop there. Those skulls are supposedly some of the alien skulls. Now remember, I told you in past programs the Vatican actually has a skull that is an alien skull in their archives. It's in the big library where they have a lot of treasures and a lot of older documents and things stored. They have a lot of, you guys don't realize the Vatican has a lot of artifacts stored there that are at not only archaeological value, but historical and monetary value.
Superconscious beings have been interacting with humanity for millions of years.
Physically, they're humanoid. Their skin is as white as a piece of paper. Throughout much of their adult life, they're the same height that I am, 5'11", 6 feet tall. Their eyes are perhaps twice as large as ours. They're typically blue eyes with white pupils, although when they get older, especially the men, their eyes can take on a pink shade. Their eyes stretch further around.
Now, for those who know anything about the different alien races and their names, this is very similar to what they call the Palladians.
On the sides of their head that human eyes do, and their ears and their nose are only about half the size of human ears and noses, and their ears lay back along the side of their head more than a human does. Their lips are not as prominent as humans, and they don't have teeth. They just have ridges because they're plant eaters. They don't eat meat.
No.
Say so vegetarian, they have vegetarian aliens. There's some that are carnivorous that eat meat. Then you got vegetarian ones that only eat like vegetable stuff. So even the structure of the aliens, some have teeth, don't have teeth. You know what I mean?
We know for sure exactly how many extraterrestrial races are visiting us and interacting with humanity. There are different sources disclosing some of that information. I found the most credible to be whistleblowers, people who have worked in these various secret projects who in some way have kind of been given information that gives them an idea of exactly how many races are here. One of those sources is a sergeant who worked for 22 years in the Air Force, Clifford Stone, and he was involved in these top secret projects that involved the retrieval of crashed discs. And in that process, he was able to get quite a bit of information on how many extraterrestrial races are visiting us. And he came up with the figure of 57. Others have come up with slightly more. Another prominent whistleblower or former employee of the CIA is John Weir, and he talks about over 60 races.
See, so even when I said in my older programs that there was many races that they known about, okay? 57 to 60 some different alien races. You guys got to understand, it's not coming from our solar system. These are from intergalactical solar systems, okay? And all their different planets that they might have.
On one night, I saw between 200 and 300 different tall white individuals.
He's from
Basically,
hospitality.com, Millennia
lined up
Hospitality.
along the mountains to the east of, up along where the ammunition bunker was. On the night that the tall white lady known as Pamela was supposed to finish her final exam to be head of the technology transfer team to go into Livermore. In amongst those 200 or 300 tall whites, and that's just an estimate because I couldn't, it was a crowd of people, I couldn't count them all. There were also American Air Force personnel, nobody below the rank of colonel. There was like a 4-star general, a 3-star general. There were several of them. There were also several American government people in civilian clothing.
Could it be possible that our universe is not only immense, but that it is full of life, and that there is a great diversity of this life spread throughout our own local galaxy and even our solar system? Equally outstanding is the recent revelation by the government of Brazil of their intent to turn over the official UFO files dating back to as early as 1954 to the people of Brazil.
Well, the Virginia case is probably the best, well-documented case that we have in Brazil and probably in the world. And you know that over 80 witnesses came forward, first-hand witnesses came forward during the first weeks, and they are still coming after it happened. During all these years, we still keep getting witnesses that come forward and tell us pieces of the big story that we know that comprises the capture of at least 2 alien creatures in the city of Virginia. We know for a fact, because we have it all documented, plus the witnesses have confirmed and cross-confirmed that one alien was captured in the morning of that day, which was a Saturday, about 10:30, by a fire department and some personnel from the Army. Another creature was seen at the same day by mid-afternoon by 3 girls. It was them who called the attention of all the city, the fact that strange creatures have been seen, because when the first one was seen captured in the morning, it didn't draw too much attention. But at the afternoon, when the girls saw another creature, and then spread the word to everybody, we saw the devil, that's what they thought they saw. That night of the Saturday, January 20, 1996, that second creature, probably the same one saw by the girl, was also captured by a police car, actually a military police car, with 2 policemen inside. The one who was sitting in the passenger seat was Marco Di Ceresi, and he was lucky enough to be the one who spotted the creature, Robert with him.
Now, I know some of you guys are going to say, oh, that's a demon. Look at the horns, look at the horns. But for those who do not have the open mind, they'll say, yeah, that's a demon. And these are demonic beings, okay? But here's the thing. In the Bible, it says, through me, everything is possible, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And, I believe that, God created everything, you know what I'm saying? Whether, it's Satan himself, or whether it's, Jesus, or whether it's all these different planets and all these different solar systems and the intercontinental connection and all these life forms. God created all the life forms, right? So, I think it is possible that we may have visitors from, intercontinental solar systems of planets of kind of living beings, and they happen to look like this. You know what I'm saying? Every race, think about it on Earth, Do you think every type of country in the world has to have just straight white people? No. Do you think they all have to have straight Asian people or straight black people or straight tan people, which are kind of like Spanish people? No. We have the mixture of everything. So this is the same way it is in the intercontinental dimensions of different solar systems and planets, that they're not going to look alike. They're all going to be different, right? Same thing here.
Bare arms, bare hands, got back to the car, put the equipment in his lap, and took the hospital. 25 days after that, he died on February 15th of some bacteria attacks, proving that his immune deficiency system was absolutely destroyed. And army personnel and authorities kept,
Now I want you to hear that too, because diseases can come and go with visitations of these beings, because even though they may have advanced technology, they also can have advanced diseases, viruses, their DNA or whatever, same thing, and medicines and so on and so forth. So let me go back to that little tidbit. I want you to hear that again.
by 3 girls. It was them who called the attention of all the city the fact that strange creatures have been seen. Because when the first one was seen together in the morning, it didn't draw too much attention. But at the afternoon, when the girls saw another creature, and then spread the word to everybody, we saw the devil, that's what they thought they saw.
See, so with everybody having the religious stereotypes and not having an open mind, it's in a form of kind of like a brainwash of that kind of system. Okay, they're gonna call out these without having an open mind as devils or diablos or demonic beings, right? Just as these girls did in Brazil. Okay.
That night of the Saturday, January 20, 1996, that second creature, probably the same one saw by the girl.
This is in 1996.
By a police car, actually a military police car, with 2 policemen inside. The one who was sitting in the passenger seat was Marco Lixerez, and he was lucky enough to be the one who spotted the creature, grabbed it with his bare arms, bare hands, got back to the car, put the creature in his lap.
Now I want you to really, really turn up your volume and really listen to about what he's going to say.
Days after that, he died on February 15th of some bacteria trial. And army personnel.
See? So some kind of bacterial or virus infection. Now think about that with what's going on with the CV situation. Okay? Are they trying to build people's immunities up by either taking the shot or not taking the shot and building it naturally, which will be stronger than actually taking the shot, so that they can alter our DNA for the future? See what I'm saying? So it makes us stronger people on Earth for the future, so that we're resistant against more of the diseases, the bacterias, the viruses, and so on and so forth. And it's like also incorporate nature, which is vitamins, supplements, and nutrients as well, to build the immune systems. It's interesting how things correlate, come together. You know what I mean?
Now, and authorities kept it all secret for lots of time until the UFO researchers started protesting along with the press. And so much.
And also, I want to incorporate something else. If you guys remember, when Columbus came to America, remember the Indians? And they said that they supposedly infected them and they got the smallpox. Same thing. Same thing in Europe when they got the Black Plague, right? Think about all these things, how time repeats itself.
sure that eventually information was released about it.
The exobiological aspect of the probability of life out there has actually increased over what it was in 1950. And the indication that there may be ways of traveling faster than the speed of light so that, hey, they can get here from there. Doesn't mean that they're coming in 5 minutes or they're coming every hour or every day, but they might be able to traverse this huge distances in a period of weeks or months or something instead of spending hundreds of thousands of years. Well, look at the UFO sightings. Maybe they provide the answer that they are here.
There was talk in the war room about a study that was underway. And the study became initiated in 1961 as a result of an event that occurred in early February 1961.
Think about dates. Record the dates, because that will give you your timeline on a lot of events happening, whether it was a economic problem, a food supply problem, diseases or global epidemic or anything else like that.
Where a flight of unidentified objects were flying from the Soviet sector over the Warsaw Pact toward the west over the NATO lines. These objects were very high, very fast. They were in formation. They appeared to be circular in shape, and they were obviously under intelligence control.
Now, I have to propose something to you guys to think about, okay? Think about this. What if back in that they're talking about 1961, but think further back in time during the Nazi regime in Germany, right? And think about how Hitler wanted to get a hold of it and do his own time travel type thing, right? Maybe he did find it. Why? Because he found Tesla's paperwork on, and especially the one with time travel. What if, he has this technology, he escaped Earth through a time portal type situation using Tesla's technology, okay? And this sighting that they saw in 1961, information like that, which looks like a bunch of bells that come together, that looks like an actual big UFO kind of thing when it's running around, on radar, was part of that situation. At any point in time, whether it's in the past to the current situation to even in the future, are they traveling through these portholes? Are they using Tesla's technology to do so?
They came in formation of what appeared to be. They flew in formation at a high rate of speed from the east over NATO, over the Channel, southern coast of England, where they turned. They flew north and disappeared from NATO radar over the Norwegian Sea. We found out that the Soviets had gone on alert, the Warsaw Pact had gone on alert because they picked them up. All of our airports and radar sensory devices picked them up. NATO thought those objects belonged to us. We found later that the Russians thought they belonged to us. Both forces were to find out later that they didn't belong to any of us, that they belonged to somebody else. Where are they from? They demonstrated incredibly high technology. They were not jets. They were helicopters. They were circular. They were metallic. They were in formation. They moved obviously under intelligence. NATO shape the Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers created the study, which was underway when I arrived to determine what the hell these things were.
Some experts now claim that societies exist in our universe at every conceivable level of social and spiritual development. Societies and civilizations that express themselves in countless manners of physical forms and spiritual ways.
Have great wars and conflicts occurred within our own solar system? Does our true planetary past include rebellions and disputes that have raged throughout our heavens? In our distant past, have massive spacecrafts rained destruction down from the heavens, ravishing continents and destroying advanced civilizations? Genesis 6:1. When men began to increase in number on the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose.
The historical record is plain. This has been a phenomenon that's been around since our recorded history. The Vedas, the Hindu Vedas, which are one of the oldest writings in the world, talk about the flying Brahmas and how that they were used to launch weapons and blow up cities and all this stuff. Again, we got Ezekiel, and it just goes all the way back. So they've been here all along. If their game plan was like an Independence Day type invasion where they're going to blow up everything, everybody, or whatever, it would have happened.
Did you hear that? If this was an Independence Day thing where they blow up everything. Now, isn't that interesting? He would say such words when a movie came out called Independence Day, and that in that movie, exactly that's what happened.
Happened long before now.
My main question was, is God out there too? If God's on this planet, is he out there too? And those questions were answered by reading the Bible. And that really set me on this journey.
Interesting, huh? Very interesting. I'm going to take a pause there a minute, see if there's any questions in the chat real quick. Okay, we're doing good still? All right. We will continue.
Understanding the abduction phenomenon, what is the reasoning for this? Who's doing this? And all those questions that we all ask. We think of aliens and we think of angels as, divine beings that we have no idea of. We don't see them communicate with on a daily basis.
But it is not only the Bible and other holy works that are filled with references to UFOs and extraterrestrials.
All right, so this is for the people, I'm going to say most of you guys out there that read the Bible, okay?
Paintings, stone carvings, and even coins reflect strange humanoid-like creatures and their flying crafts.
Serious researchers now say that the real question is not whether there are abductions occurring, but are the abductions to help or to harm us?
And the Greys were authorized to sort of like a Noah's Ark to develop a full genetic DNA bank of all flora and fauna on this planet so as to feed the planet centuries down the road after the catastrophe.
Can you imagine any president, whether it be Bush or Becker or whatever, standing before the public and saying, yes, I am aware that upgrade our biological to build better bodies, house our souls, incarnation, and talk about things like that. He wouldn't be able to do the job as hired.
What we know of the reptilians by a number of abductees, contactees, and also whistleblowers is that there seems to be a lot of evidence supporting the existence of this race of beings on the planet for thousands of years. In other words, that we consider them to be indigenous Earth species, bands of non-human species that has lived on the Earth for thousands of years and actually may have played quite an important role in the genetic manipulation or engineering which supposedly has happened when it comes to humanity.
You're hearing that genetic engineering. What do you think they're doing with your CV?
Time to time come visit this planet, zoom around, and I think that to try to ascribe any one particular motive to them is tantamount to us looking up at the air at a Boeing 767 aircraft and saying, are those people good or bad? You just can't ask that. It's a group of people, a group of intelligent beings. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good. But I will say this, I don't think there's any reason or great fear and anxiety.
Most recently, two new terms have emerged that also describe human-alien interaction. The most widely used is the word experiencer for those that have some sort of experience, good or bad, and participator, which has been coined to explain the cases where the individual may have been an abductee originally, but has transcended that situation by now volunteering to participate with his abductors.
My contact with extraterrestrial intelligence occurred when I was aboard my sailing boat in Hawaii in the Honolulu harbor. And it was early one morning. It was about 5 o'clock, and I had gotten up early, and I had gotten a cup of coffee, and I'd gone back to my bunk, and I was just laying there completely dressed, trying to just look at the beautiful sunrise that was occurring through the large skylight above my bed. And suddenly the most incredible energy enveloped me, and the whole room began to like glow and glisten, and a beautiful woman materialized right next to my bed. And at first I thought I was dreaming or hallucinating, and I said, "You can't be real." And she said, "Well, I am." And I said, "Well, why are you here?" And she said, "I'm here as a representative of a group of friends that want you to come to a briefing."
The room was lit up completely, but my eyes were closed. I knew somehow not to open my eyes. There was something telling me, don't open your eyes because you won't want to like what you're going to see. Eventually, I did open my eyes because I could hear noise in the room. There was like scuffling on the floor. I opened my eyes. There were three small grey beings with big black eyes, big heads, and very skinny, spindly limbs. They pulled me up out of the bed, and then with one behind me and one each side of me holding my elbows, walked me towards the window. And I'm thinking, well, the windows are closed, guys, so you better open them before we go any further. So there was this rationality and irrationality going on at the same time.
I boarded what could be called a saucer. It was some type of an interdimensional vehicle that took me to the briefing that was occurred on a planet, a local planet here in our system, which was Jupiter. And the whole planet just radiated with the energy. And I spent time there with these incredible...
Did you hear that? So he actually boarded a craft that flew in our solar system to Jupiter, where this one particular alien race was, for him to sit into a meeting with this alien race. I mean, to me, I don't know. What do you think?
People, beings, and I got a glimpse of mankind's destiny or future as it was possible.
And as we approached the window, I closed my eyes. And as I did, I felt this stickiness. It was a stickiness and a feeling of something being pulled very slowly across my face. It wasn't painful, it was just very, very weird. The next, I opened my eyes because I felt cold, I felt wind on my face, and I was aware that I was now floating outside of the window, 3 stories up, looking down at the car park with a very bright light above my head. I couldn't really see what was above my head.
That's this transportation.
Very bright light. One little grey on each elbow. I was aware of them. And we floated up into the craft.
And people have said, "Well, then you were abducted." And I said, "No, I went very willingly." And they've also asked, how can you tell if you were to meet an extraterrestrial? And I would have to say the energy field. Because when they're in your presence, they absolutely resonate at a frequency that's so much higher. And it can only be described as dealing with them, can be described as ecstasy. I had been taken in the middle of the night while I was asleep, and I was asleep through the whole thing until all of a sudden.
What I'm going to show you, I want you to think about those people out there who got the CV test where they did the nasal swab thing, okay? And then think about that baby as them harvesting your DNA, okay?
I felt
Listen.
some pressure going up my nose, And it startled me so much that I opened my eyes. And when I opened,
Now think about that too. This thing is going up their nose, but think about the stuff here right now in current time where they're saying, okay, we did the nasal swab for the CV, but then there's other reports where, it's possible that they're putting a chip up there in your nose or they're putting a tracking device there up in your nose. Okay. I've heard of many different things, but I'm just saying, you connect the dots.
in my eyes, I saw this large-headed being with gray skin, large black eyes, and small other features that was looking down at me. And he had long fingers that he was using to hold this instrument that he was using to shove up my nose.
I feel knowledge is power. And someday, maybe next week, maybe tomorrow, maybe 5 years from now, we're going to get all of the proof we need that somebody exists. Hey, and each might show up and I might actually get an interview. The point is, that the more we know about this subject, the less legend can take over. You see a craft hanging near you.
See, that's what I'm saying, and that's why they're holding back a lot of these UFO reports, is because they want to create this legend. They don't want this proof out. They don't want this truth out. This is part of the same thing that all the patriots are fighting for with truth and transparency with the government. That's the same thing with the UFO stuff. You know what I mean? All right, let's fast forward this a little bit because I know this is getting to be a lengthy program here.
They were all humanoid, but they were not human. Only one of the four was what we considered. One group out of the four looked so much like us. I mean, almost identical. They could put on, these guys could have put on a suit and tie. And for the females, countered some of them. They could put on a dress, a suit, and tie.
Hang on.
Sit down with you next to you in a restaurant. Persone come noi,
They're
che hanno un
extraterrestrials.
corpo come noi.
They have a body like ours.
I want you to see he's a priest, maybe from the Vatican.
He's extraterrestrial.
Che io prendo poi quando
Being
parlo,
ghosts.
He's an Italian.
prendo in senso largo, cioè anche delle persone che o sono dentro.
He says I'm using this in a large sense. All the people are inside the craft.
Oh, ma questo è molto molto difficile.
Remember, I told you, past artwork has proof of them recording UFOs. This is the Mona Lisa. There's other artwork out there as well that is in the bigger museums that have indications of UFOs back many centuries ago. This goes back even to the caveman times where they have cave paintings with UFOs. It's been documented through time. And here's my question to you guys. If they have this kind of proof way back in the ages, been documented throughout time since the beginning of time, since the caveman time, then why aren't ask the question, why aren't our governments coming clean with what's going on? Do they think we can't handle it? I mean, we're seeing all the past proof. You know what I'm saying? And there's plenty there. Because right now, there's more of an awake society in this globe right now than there ever has been in history. I think if they're going to start releasing information, they need to do it now on all our global governments to release all this UFO information and declassification or classification information, because now's the time that they can handle it more than they ever could in past history, because there's more people awake, knowing and able to accept it. You know what I mean?
C'è un pianeta che è a 1000 chilometri da noi, no, 1000 chilometri.
It's very difficult, but they make themselves seen and known to people on Earth.
È molto ragionevole che siano dentro.
So it's probably logical if they're inside a craft instead of coming from somewhere else without a craft.
Quindi sono persone come noi, composte di una parte spirituale. le chiamiamo anima. Gli UFO, io non ho mai parlato con un UFO, non ho avuto
He says they would have to have a soul, like we.
ma che abbiano anche un corpo, devono avere un corpo,
They'd have to have some kind of
se
body.
no sarebbero angeli.
Otherwise, they would be angels.
You hear that? You hear that? So I'm going to stop there a minute.
How can countries?
So he's saying that these obviously are bodies, okay? That they can't be angels, okay? So whether an angel is good or bad, meaning that it's demonic, as an angel, demonic angel, or demonic spirit, they found enough evidence showing that these are physical bodies.
One of which actually bordered with the United States, be having UFO visitations by the hundreds, when other major nations of our world insist that they are not. And even more importantly, how can these countries' governmental policy, both official and otherwise, be that they never have had UFO or alien contact? The only logical explanation is in fact that governments are willing to lie.
For the past 9 years, I've been researching into the United States government files on what they have on the UFO phenomenon and all sorts of different conspiracies. And I've reached 183,000 pages of government documents on the internet. There is a political block, what I call a truth embargo, instituted by the government, that they are not ready to formally
You hear that?
acknowledge
Truth embargo.
this, quote, presence.
Anything that involves absolute proof, like hardware and bodies, or siphoning off completely into another track, they just can't allow information to come out overnight, so people can be perturbed and actually demand that something be done about it. They stonewall it, deny it, lie about it for 30, 40 years, and then finally just announce it as if it's fact, and everybody goes, okay. It's clear we're dealing with a cosmic quantity, meaning some people within major governments have known since at least July 1947, when 2 crash flying saucers and several alien bodies were recovered in New Mexico, that indeed some UFOs are alien spacecraft. The government set up Project Blue Book, the Air Force did, in order to investigate this subject on a low level. Researchers, mostly regular citizens, have proven without a doubt there's an extraterrestrial presence and we're being engaged. The evidence is overwhelming. And in some cases, you can actually point to where the Air Force explanation completely contradicts what's in. Of course, we go back at the canopy so that they could monitor the pilot, see what he was doing. While I went to the hangar, which was secured, there were 2 gentlemen in there. They introduced themselves. One was Naval Intelligence, the other was CIA. And I started working, doing my job.
Did you hear that? Naval Intelligence and the 3-letter agency that starts with a C. Now think about that with what's going on currently with not only our election, but all the crap where they're being censored.
Well, they sat around and talked. It became very apparent to me that they were there for that purpose to talk. They knew about all my flying saucer experience all the way from Corrilate. They told me intelligence, CIA intelligence group, had 3 intelligence digests, flying saucer photographs, witness documentation from all over the world. And they said that I should probably try to get those 3 copies. That's when I wrote.
Now I want you guys to listen to this.
But in addition to that, they told me that I should tell people what my experience would have been. And so tell everybody you can. Because they can't. They were not allowed to talk about it.
There's this curtain of ridicule that's been drawn up around the UFO phenomenon. And as long as that curtain of ridicule holds solid, the scientists will be afraid to contribute anything to looking into UFOs. And part of that curtain of ridicule involves the fact that hardly any decent
papers have gotten into the referee scientific literature. So that curtain of ridicule may be slightly opened up now that they have a paper that they can refer to, and if they feel like writing to their own papers on UFOs.
Secrecy has faded like cancer. Many institutions, including the government.
I got into more and more controversial and exotic subjects. I found myself a journalist without a journal. There's definitely very tight control over the flow of information on certain topics through our corporate control mass media.
You hear that?
They seem to take it upon themselves to be gatekeepers of information.
Gatekeepers of information, controlled information.
Is just absolutely immense wealth of information concerning the UFO phenomenon and the fact that it can be tracked and documented all the way back through history.
The only institution that is more corrupt than what I'm describing as this rogue transnational hypocrisy is the agency. Worse in the Congress, worse in the White House, worse than anything at the normal level of clearances at the Pentagon. Big media. Big media does not report about these things because they are not free to. And we think in the United States and the Western world we really have a free press.
Did you hear that? So that confirms the media, all media, the media that's not only on your TV, the media that is on your cell phones, the media that is on your computers, your social media is all controlled. In other words, they're not telling the truth. This is a confirmation.
Free press on everything that's not important. On the really important issues, very controlled. This is the most important issue. The biggest secret in the history of the human rights movement, modern history of government. And they have cooperated with this. How is this cover-up contained, maintained through international borders? And it is, are their motivations the same? The best guess is that since America has such overwhelming economic power, the only worst thing than America being bad is for America to ignore you. So many countries, economies depend on America.
It's not only for the U.S., but all global media, too.
From America in some ways. When it comes to the cover-up, I think that's what the U.S. government is not only pressuring Brazilian government, but it's making pressure over almost all countries that are somehow aligned politically, aligned with the United States. Now, all South America, except maybe for Chile and Venezuela, which perhaps Chavez.
Notice he heard the word Venezuela. What happened there a year ago?
It's very aligned to U.S. politics. All the countries will do just exactly U.S. President tells them. Is keep this under wraps.
Recent media polls show that over 100 million people in the United States alone believe that there is some form of extraterrestrial life. 45% believe that the Earth has been visited by extraterrestrial beings. Nationally known journalists continue to turn a deaf ear to the public's demands for true investigative reporting on a daily basis. Accepting instead the dribble of denial from numerous government agencies as fact, while refusing to interview the legions of researchers who have made serious scientific investigation of UFOs and alien contacts their life's work.
What else are the governments of the world not saying?
What if there is positive proof that UFOs do in fact exist? What if that proof has existed for years, but has been hidden neatly within the fabric of a system of lies and grand deception?
Three-letter agency connections.
Concerned about the way in which this whole area has been managed by the national security agencies responsible by maintaining secrecy, keeping people in the dark. That means that we really don't know whether this secrecy and withholding information, withholding the technologies from the general public arena is really for the best interest of all of us.
The problem has been since the early 50s, and I have the government documents. The United States government has instituted a policy of denial and control of the information. Nothing happening there, folks. Nothing happening there, folks. And
And if somebody persists and say, but
I want to stop there a minute because I don't know if you guys are seeing the pattern, but we have a lot of controlled media out there, a lot of censorship going on, and a lot of things that are pro towards the left more than the right. And let's just think about something, okay? Something to think about. What if um, everything that we're seeing being played out right now in current time, CV, the censorship, everything else, is part of a big file that actually discloses all this UFO connections to all this agenda moving forward for 2021, 2030, all that stuff. I mean, what if, think about it.
I saw it, then they're ridiculed. You got a screw loose. Something's not right with it. This is absolutely just unconscionable in a country that pays lip service to freedom and individual liberty, because there have been so many people whose lives have been wrecked, whose families have been wrecked because of this policy of denial and ridicule over a phenomenon that has happened worldwide for centuries.
Disclosure has a very defined definition. It means the formal acknowledgement by the governments of the world of the extraterrestrial presence.
As fellow inhabitants of planet Earth, we live in a rapidly changing world. The advent of modern communication networks and the internet has made maintaining UFO cover-up a difficult and demanding undertaking.
Brian Bike of the HBCC UFO is the #1 UFO website to send information to. Him and Rents and UFO Casebook are 3 places that I always send my footage to. They will only put verified sightings on their site. They just won't put junk up there. And I know they get over 3, 4, up to 10 million hits a month.
For over half a century, the United States, Great Britain, and a host of allied countries have been able to maintain a vast web of secrecy over what is actually happening worldwide relative to aliens, or what are generally known as EBEs, extraterrestrial biological entities. But that is rapidly.
Now you heard that, right? ETBs, extraterrestrial biological entities. Now, what do you think they're doing biologically, getting the CV test from you? Or what do you think they're doing when you're getting the CV pump in the arm and trying to alter your DNA?
Changing, and disclosure, the lifting of the truth embargo, is now taking place.
I'll be getting over 500,000 hits this month. But the interesting thing about that is that a couple of thousand of those hits each month are from the military. As far as sharing information on the internet, that is the best way to do it, and probably the safest way, only because I know I've sent DVDs to people and they haven't received them. And I would email them and say, look, I'm going to send you a DVD, analyze it for me, let me know what this is. 2 weeks later, they'll email me and say, I never got it. I'm just waiting for that day when they come knocking on my door and want to talk to me about it. But until that day, I think.
See, so there again, remember I was telling you about how they had certain sites being hacked and hacked into, or you heard about it in the news? Just like he said that he never got certain emails from people, eyewitnessing actual live UFOs, had film on it, never got it, kind of thing, in his electronic email. Okay, I'm looking for the day that they do the kill switch on the internet, because that's going to stop everything.
I think they know who I am. I think they know we're here. I think this is the way it's going to be done here on out. The military definitely doesn't want to talk about it anymore. Everything at night to them is a flip or an airplane. On the contrary, we have all this evidence that shows otherwise.
Like the dawning of a new day, the internet is quickly sweeping away the darkness. The truth will not be stopped.
We're in this strange reality, which we're caught between 2 worlds, between 2 paradigms. And the bridge between, or the door between.
You heard the magic word: 2 doors, 2 paradigms. What I tell you about the U.S. government, let alone any other government, let alone any religious belief system runs in twos. You got the surface stuff, and then you got the deep state stuff. You got the surface stuff on all governments in the world. You've got the lower part of it, the deep state stuff of it. It's the same thing with religion. Look at that priest that we just saw here in this show, right? You got the surface information, but then they got the deep, state kind of information. Okay? Think about that. We're living in a dual system, like I said.
Paradigms is what is now called disclosure event.
Recently in Washington, D.C., a press conference was held in conjunction with an international event, the X Conference, where a panel of eminent scientists and researchers broke the silence and spoke out and called for a full international disclosure and an end to the truth embargo relative to UFOs and extraterrestrials.
I was an in the know person, high up in government or finance. I knew about the extraterrestrial issue, and I knew about sequestered technology, and I knew what it could do when it was released. My position would be this: let's keep that technology under wraps as long as possible, while we sell as much of the rest of the oil as we can for as much as possible. And we'll take that money, and we'll use that to own the extraterrestrial technology.
Did you hear that? To sell as much oil as they can. But yet they got the Telsa energy, right? Telsa energy is the alternative energy where no one pays for energy. So they can't control you, right? But if you buy oil, which is your gas in your car, they control you.
Point is, there's always people in the know and out of the know. Sometimes it's about stuff, you're in or you're out. But there are some things you can't have the in the know and out of the know.
Basically, what we're calling on today is for the government of the United States to take the issue of extraterrestrial life, where it has been stuck in conflict for the last 60 years, and take it out of the military, the intelligence agencies, and put it into the Department of Education, the scientific departments where it belongs. Take it out of the threat scenario agencies where it is funded as a potential threat, and put it into the opportunity agencies where it is funded as a matter of education and advancement of knowledge for mutual benefit.
Now think about that with Elon Musk and all his ideas about the Tesla car, the tunneling underneath the earth, because he wants to create an easier way for people to commute inside of the city, all the other different technological things. Is Elon Musk the key where he might have some of Tesla's papers? Maybe. Is he in the U.S.? Yeah. Why is a government not wanting to disclose all this? Because why? There's no way the government then can do subcontracting with Elon Musk because the Tesla papers situation. See? Things to think about. What if,
There is an overwhelming mass of proven, real government documents that have been released, largely through the Freedom of Information Act, that show decades of, for example, airspace violations, very sensitive things by objects doing what appear to be nothing. We have these documents from the 1940s, we have it from the 1950s, we have it from the 1960s, and 70s, 80s, and beyond. So these airspace violations continue. They are provocative, they are at times seemingly confrontational. You have pilots who have been charged with going up to get these things, and they have described them at times, saying, yes, it appears to be a metallic disc-shaped. There it goes.
I began on this topic by trying to do reverse engineering and gravity control devices in 1968, but now I'm officially looking at leaked question documents. And
there's your
some of
proof
the
of reverse
documents
engineering,
show a
1968 too.
One of the leaked documents started with FDR, and FDR had set up through Vannevar Bush a committee called the Non-Terrestrial Science and Engineering Committee. These were
All right, I want to stop there. because my dad and I constantly have a fight that verbal wise that FDR Roosevelt there wasn't involved with any kind of secret UFO programs. None. Okay, this is proof that he was.
It appears to be a metallic disc-shaped.
Now I want you guys out there listen to the Roosevelt time.
Reverse engineering and gravity control devices in 1968. But now I'm officially looking at these question documents. And some of the documents tell an amazing story. One of the leaked documents started with FDR, and FDR had set up through Vannevar Bush a committee called the Non-Terrestrial Science and Engineering Committee. These were guys after the recovery of a crash flying saucer in 1942 who were given the parts and told to figure out how they worked. They came back to FDR in 1944 and asked for money. And he said, no, we got to win the war first, beat the Nazis. And then in 1947, it was Vannevar Bush who went to...
Say, Bush family.
Who didn't know about all this. He said, by the way, we have these craft, we could do some reverse engineering in order to improve our country, to improve our culture,
Truman.
to improve our standard of living. And that was when the money started.
July 2002, right here in the Washington, D.C. area, there was yet again a airspace jet chase by two F-16 jet interceptors, which were chasing a bluish object right outside D.C.
My opinion right now is the person who's going to wait for hard evidence is going to be left behind when the deluge comes.
Exopolitics offers a bridge out of the permanent worker state, the permanent worker economy, out of the permanent worker industry, into transforming the permanent worker industry into a cooperative, peaceful, state-age society integrated with universal society. So begin to...
So let's stop there. So think about that with Space Force and other government secret space programs.
Outside of kind of conventional schools and to school theories, what it is that really is driving international politics. And so then I came up with this area of an undisclosed extraterrestrial presence that is kept from the general public, so that really did help me understand what was going on and what is driving international politics. What's important is the structural blinders and the structural belief patterns and the structural paradigms. If the exopolitics model can come in and establish itself as a dominant paradigm, such that structurally within academia, the Earth is no longer flat, it is now round. Intelligent life no longer ends at the geostationary orbit. The universe is now highly populated. It's that sort of sea change that we need to unleash a huge public and private explosion of creativity and cooperation to turn our spaceship around, be able to survive the environmental pressures that are coming now, which have been the result of the embargo that we've been under.
Are we, the people of Earth, on the verge of technological destruction? Has our use and testing of nuclear weapons already triggered an interdimensional countdown that is now moving us as a planet towards some kind of interstellar intervention, even though there's clearly no evidence now on what civilization is hostile towards us? I think they're very worried about our hostility. I always turn this on its head, because most of these sort of documentaries are always the alien invasion and all this stuff. No. The issue is that, if they were hostile, we would know it by now. It's clear to me that what's going on is that they're very concerned that at the time that humanity reached the ability to go into space, early space exploration, that we also had already developed weapons of mass destruction and permanent hydrogen bombs, and that
these groups that are interested in this, at least seem to show some benevolence, I think would probably step in and keep us from blowing the hell out of ourselves if it pushed up the stuff. Just amazing as they were just public relations efforts to try to get people not to be thinking about UFOs. So in other words, all you folks out there who are old enough to have been seen all the newspaper reports of the Robinson panel and hear what Blue Book said, just hogwash. Never mind.
The non-human intelligence presence has been here for a long time. That Colonel Pelicorso said there are 57 different races, and that some accords were made to talk about their presence, whether it be Hollywood, movies, or whatever, including the ABC special, that if it isn't done soon, they will probably do it.
Extraterrestrials are not a national security issue. They're an educational and social issue for our society. And they may be a spiritual issue. I retired.
Give me a minute. I'm going to fast forward this a little bit.
We put together the means for people to do that. Now people have to take the initiative, and we need all the help we can get. I would ask people to help us network this to anyone and any institution that can help. The reason this is so critical is that we've reached a point in our civilization where for us to go forward as a people, we're going to have to take some kind of illegal secrecy. And we're going to have to allow this information and technology to get out and begin fixing these large problems.
I've always believed our destiny is in the stars. That's a hope that I have. Generations yet to come will travel up and will become a part of that community. That's a dream that I will live to see, but it's a dream I hold dear.
So anyway, I'm going to stop there, and you guys got the link in the middle of the show. So see the whole thing for what it's worth. Connect the dots with everything that's happening now. For those people who got the CV pump in the arm, for those who got the test up their nose, for the situations on the Patriots and people on the right that are being censored off social media platforms, where they're not telling the truth on your TV sets on the news, or they're withholding information. All this is correlating to the bigger grand picture. You know what I mean? And I think what it is that there's documents that haven't been declassed, maybe part of even the FISA reports, that shows proof of the UFOs that they don't want out. And so in order for them to still control the masses monetarily wise, they have to do all this stuff that they're doing right now. All the stuff that the left side, the Democrats are doing, all the stuff with the CV situation, all the stuff with the censorship and etc. and so on. Why? Because they're control freaks. They want to control you and me. Okay? And the more that we talk about different subjects and things out there and discuss it in open minds and pose questions about things, the more society will evolve. No matter whether you're in the States, whether you're in another foreign country, or wherever you're at. And also call on the carpet all those politicians that is suppressing the truth, or that is not taking a stand for the citizens, no matter where they live in the globe. Anyway, this is Boho with the info. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you missed any part of this show, go ahead and rewind it and replay it. Please share it. I will post this in the Twitter and YouTube pages, and we'll see you next time, because you just never know what we talk about next. See you soon. Bye. Thanks for coming.